What's up? Welcome in to another edition of ACC Baseball Etc, presented as always by our friends at Pitch Logic, the system used by players, coaches, scouts, and instructors at all levels of play, from youth leagues to the big leagues. The easy-to-use and affordable technology makes the platform accessible to every player at every level. All the metrics and features used at the highest level. You can go to pitchlogic.com for more information. I'm going to do quick intros. Aaron Fitt is in for Danny Graves. I'm Daron Vaught. With Pitch Logic in mind, Fitt, I just got to say, you were at least two games of the Duke at Wake Forest series, I know, including the Friday game one that I called with our friend Larry Sorensen. Yeah. And I got to the park early enough for Larry to corner me and give me the Pitch Logic demo, which I had never gotten before. I was aware, obviously, of them and what they do to a pretty intimate degree, but I had never gotten the demo. So he had iPad with the app. He had the Pitch Logic ball with him and was just sort of demonstrating some of the uses of it. And I got to say, it made me want to buy one and go play catch and get the metrics and numbers and the flight path of the ball and all that fun stuff just from a game of catch. So I can only imagine seeing what I saw, what a pitcher would think. It's got to be and it's so easy too. The way Larry did it, he was like, it's the phone app. You use it on an iPad or even your phone. All the sessions, you get video from it. They sync up into the cloud so coaches can access it anywhere, anytime. Really cool stuff that Pitch Logic is doing with that ball.
I've been promised a full demo for a while, and Larry has yet to deliver on that. Larry, I'm calling you out. I want the demo. I want to see this for myself. It sounds awesome.
I'm sure will be happy to give it. He's dying for Gravy to see it. So, because I told him, I think the selling point was, I think Gravy and I are gonna fix a scenario where we go play catch and I get Danny to throw some sinkers to me if he's still got it, and we look at all the fun stuff on that as well. But
do you think you can catch Gravy's sinker?
I was a pretty nifty, middle infielder with a decent little pick on a short hop. So maybe we'll see. We'll see. I say was is the integral word, right? I couldn't tell you the last time I actually played catch. It was a while ago. So I'll have to warm up in the lead up to that. But I think we're going to make it happen. That might be like an ACC championship week thing that we get on video.
That's
as
a
well.
Great idea. I'm in for that. I want to be there for that.
Yeah. No, we'll make sure you are. We'll make sure you are. So Fitt is with me. Gravy is, I believe, in midair as we speak. He's the jet setter that he is. I believe was down in Florida for some spring training this weekend. So he'll be back later this week, I promise. But Fitt is in for a quick weekend in review in the ACC. Big weekend leading up to the series that we had, obviously with Duke at Wake Forest. And I think we had some pretty exciting things happen elsewhere throughout the league as well. But Aaron, I saw you at Duke Wake. General impressions from what was a big time series victory for the Blue Devils.
Yeah, and I was there all weekend. I did not post a story Saturday night after I got home very late. I decided instead I'm going to save my Chase Burns opus for a midweek Golden Spikes spotlight piece. So look forward to that. Chase Burns was awesome. I mean, it was wow. I thought Hagen Smith I saw a couple weeks ago against Oregon State. I thought that was going to be the best arm I would see all year, and maybe that's still the case. But I mean, I was debating with David Seifert, Burns versus Hagen Smith, and I don't know the answer right now. It's like, Tom Walter used the phrase, that it was like Paul Skeens or Rhett Lauder. I think Skeens is actually a pretty good comp, stylistically for Burns. I mean, it's 97 to 100, touch of 101 even with command and elite ride, and he's got, frankly, a better slider than Skeens has, I believe, right now. And he commanded it. He landed for a strike, got it for a chase, whatever he wanted. And by the way, he'll mix in a curveball or a changeup on you too. I mean, it's a 4-pitch guy. I was super, super impressed. And so, I'll start with the positives there for the Deeks because there weren't a ton of positives for the Deeks. Not a very good weekend for the number one team in the country. I thought they were exposed a little bit. I think we just have to acknowledge at this point, Daron, that yes, Wake Forest had to be preseason number one. I mean, they had 5 preseason All-Americans. Their star power is still unmatched, but they are not as good as they were last year. Full stop. They're just not. I mean, they were so much deeper last year. The bullpen was way better. They were better behind the plate. That's an issue for me. They did not get very good play behind the plate this weekend, all weekend. The bottom half of that lineup is much more pitchable than last year, in my opinion. So they don't have the length. They just don't have some of the veteran edge guys. The Tommy Hawks, the Adam Series. These guys. I mean, Kim Manassi, the bullpen. I think people forget how nasty that dude was.
Yeah.
In addition to stuff, it was just the, kind of that crazy, back end mentality that Charlie Beilenson for Duke has. I think David Falco's got some of that too. I mean, he's, there's a reason that guy is really good despite pretty ordinary stuff for Wake Forest. But anyway, they have less experience. They have less depth. Yes, they have star power. Yes, they're still very good. They're still going to be a leading contender this year. I mean, I don't know that there is a truly elite team this year the way we had a few last year, in my opinion. I still think Wake will be there at the end, but they got a lot of things to figure out. And I would say right now, Daron, Duke is just playing better. I mean, and I know that last game wound up being a coin toss. It was 9-8, and Duke was holding on for dear life. And but the Duke bullpen, at the end, got the job done, as they so often do. Their bullpen is such a difference maker. With Beilenson, who we talked about it enough. I don't need to go into Beilenson again. He's the best closer in the country. He's awesome. But Owen Proch in a key situation, bases loaded, in the 8th inning on Sunday, they leave him in there to face Seaver King, a right-handed hitting, preseason All-American. You stick with your lefty. Beilenson was ready to go, but they showed that kind of trust in Owen Proch, and he got the job done. He struck out, a really good right-handed hitter, stranded bases loaded, and kind of, preserved that win. So they've got those guys. You've got Talon and O'Shell, who are the preseason All-Americans in that bullpen, who hadn't gotten off the great starts. They're starting to look more like themselves. I thought both guys this weekend looked good. That's an encouraging sign. So that's only going to make them better. And as I think we talked about after the Coastal Carolina week there, Duke's lineup is just so much better than I expected. I think than anyone expected. Even Chris Pollard admitted this weekend, we didn't see this coming. I mean, I don't know if they still lead the country in home runs. They did heading into this week. They got a lot of power. It's competitive at bats, top to bottom. They put together such a great game plan against Hartle and Michael Massey on Sunday. I mean, both those guys are, again, all preseason All-Americans with really good stuff. And they, the way that they took away Massey's breaking ball, the way that they got up on the plate against Hartle's cutter, and they had a great plan and they executed it. And that was just very, very loud. I just think Duke is really good. They're exceptionally well coached, and they just, they hit on all their transfers. Once again, those evaluations were so good. All these guys that came in, they weren't necessarily big name guys, the Ivy League guys at the corner infield, Logan Bravo and Ben Miller. And, you got your VMI guy there at second base, Zach Morris, who's a really good player. And, Wallace Clark, who's never really hit in his career at Oklahoma. He comes in, he's playing a good shortstop and giving a production at the 9-hole, turning it over. I mean, everything has just turned to gold for those guys. It's really incredible.
You touched on the bullpen there. Obviously, it's such an equalizer for them. Bullpen did not surrender a run on neither Friday nor Saturday. And Sunday they got, I'm trying to remember if a run was scored on the bullpen on Sunday.
Sunday was just a sloppy situation. The wind was howling. It was a tough day to pitch. The strike zone was terrible. It's actually, I think Pollard even said, like, after Kyle Johnson started, he gave him 4 strong innings. That's another emerging piece as a freshman. You know how high I am on that guy. But after he came out, it was a long top of the 4th. Duke scored, I think they had, whatever it was, they scored 6 runs or something, or the 5th, whatever it was. And, and Ryan Higgins had been ready to come in, and he had to wait and wait and wait. And I think, Pollard thought that probably affected him by the time he actually took over. He wasn't as sharp.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, they got touched a little bit there in the middle innings, but it was also, again, just kind of one of those sloppy games where you piece it together. But toward the back, they just played those last three guys, Talon, Proch, and Beilenson got it done.
Yeah. So I want to sort of speak to, before we put a bow on Duke Wake and get into some other stuff around the league, the bullpen being such an equalizer. Like, if we had this same conversation Thursday before the series started, with all the anticipation that was going into Santucci Hartle on Friday, it's less imaginable at that point that Duke gets a series win without a gem from Santucci, much less him getting rocked would be maybe a stretch, but getting touched up the way that he did.
Yeah. Hit pretty hard, I would say. I mean, both those guys it was a lot of loud contact on both sides against those two really good lefties on Friday.
Can I just say quickly, I'll interject because I was calling the one on Friday on ACC and X. I looked over at Larry after Wake tied it back up at 2 in the bottom of the first inning. And with the crowd the way that it was after waiting through an hour rain delay, and you mentioned the loud contact, everybody's emotional and fired up. But I think I briefly forgot that I was on air, and I just looked over at Larry and was like, this is awesome. It was big time. It was cool to see those teams trade blows the way that they did. And then, not to mention, the Seaver King home run that took the lead later in the game was fiery. And then Duke gets out in front again, and Chuck Beilenson comes in. Let me ask you this, and you can be short on it. I know we've talked about Beilenson a lot. You just said he's the best closer in the country. Is that possible? We've got Tyson Neighbors is floating around out there. You think it's Beilenson?
Well, I mean, Neighbors is hurt right now, so I'll throw that out there.
Sure.
But yes, I do think it's Beilenson. I mean, it's, and I made this comparison. I think I made it in my piece on Friday. It's Kevin Kopps, Daron, and I don't want to get too carried away because Kevin Kopps won the Golden Spikes Award. I get it, but I mean, it's like they're both 6-year seniors. That same kind of stocky 6-foot right-hander type build. 4-pitch guys. They each have one elite pitch. In Kopps' case, it was the cutter. In Beilenson's case, it's the changeup. But I mean, Beilenson's gotten so good now with the slider and the cutter. And his fastball gets much more swing and miss than it used to with Ride at 92, 94. It's 4 real pitches. They're both extremely rubber armed. You bring them back. They throw 3 innings Friday. You come back, whatever you need the rest of the weekend. I mean, he hadn't given up still haven't given up a run. And on Sunday, he comes in, first batter. They lose a fly ball in the sky for a triple to lead off the 9th. And then he walks the guy. So you got men on the corners, nobody out. What's he do? He just strikes out the next 3, whatever. I mean, it's just a guy. He's a
Friday comes in, loads the bases, gets out of it without any runs coming across. That was in the 7th, and then threw 2 more to get the save in game 1. Yeah, he's been great. I just had to check you and make sure you were clear there. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And it's funny because in the preseason we had him originally kind of juiced in our reliever power rankings. He was like, I think he was in the top 10, and we were like, can we really have 3 Duke relievers in the top 10 of our relief pitcher power rankings in the country? Like, that seems a little excessive. I checked myself some. I think we moved down to 17 or something. But no, we were right the first time. He's number 1 is what he is. He's just awesome.
It's a testament in trusting your gut.
Exactly. I guess so. But also, I wanted to follow up on one more thing you said there. Seaver King was electric this weekend. And this was actually the first time I'd seen him in person because I missed Team USA this summer, first time in forever, and I didn't see Wake in the fall, and so I was really wondering, like, is this guy a little overhyped? I mean, it seems like there's a little bit of swing and miss there. Numbers coming into the week weren't awesome, but my God, what a talent! I mean, the Friday night. Of course, I just really opened my eyes that he's up against Santucci, who's got that riding fastball, and Santucci throws 95 up by his shoulders, and somehow King manages to get on top of that fastball and turns on it and rips it into left center for a double. And it's like, whoa, I mean, that's serious bat speed. But I mean, he continued to show that kind of bat speed all weekend. Hit the ball hard. There is still some swing and miss. The approach piece is not a finished product, but then, Merrick Houston hurts his hamstring. And so they put Seaver King at shortstop for the last game and a half of the weekend. And he made a play yesterday, Daron, that was as good as a shortstop can make. I don't know if you saw that or if you were watching that game, but I mean, deep in the hole, Jeter-esque jump throw across his body, and it was an easy strike to first base for the out. I mean, it was a 5-star play, baby. I mean, it was wow. So just shows you a glimpse of what that guy can do. What a dynamic talent.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the defensive change for him, because we were watching him with the collegiate national team over the summer, wondering where he would play, because he's so versatile. And I'm telling you, actually, Aaron, I never did I think it would be center field. I was contemplating, okay, which infield spot is he going to have, but the versatility serves them well in a way that, it's funny timing that the Dodgers just announced a couple days ago that Mookie Betts is going to be their permanent for now shortstop at the big league level, because that's what it's kind of what it feels like with Seaver King. Yeah. Oh yeah. They're moving him over they moved him into second and now over to shortstop for the time being, at least.
That's fascinating. That seems kind of like the kind of athlete that Seaver King is too.
Yeah.
That's an interesting. It's funny. I was almost thinking more like a Chris Taylor, but I think Mookie is actually better fit athletically as a comp. That is interesting.
Well, let's move on to some other musings from the weekend. So new rankings: Duke up to 6, Wake Forest down to 7 in the latest top 25. Actually, you know what? Before we move on, I've got a big picture question, and you can be as short or as long as you feel necessary here. Duke winning that series and knocking Wake Forest from number 1 in the country, good or bad for the ACC collectively?
That's an interesting question.
Because Wake's now number 6. They're the top team, top ACC team in the rankings.
Yeah.
Excuse me, right. Duke jumping Wake. Yeah, is the top team in the rankings.
Which I think is accurate. I think Duke is the best team in the ACC. Yeah. Although, boy, Clemson's coming to town, I think, this weekend to face Duke. There's only so much Duke I can cover in the first month. I got to spread it around. So I'm going to Mississippi this week. I'm gonna miss that one, but that's gonna be a fun series. That'll be telling, because I mean, Clemson's the other team that I think you would have to put right in that conversation for top teams of the ACC. I mean, on the one hand, I think it's good for the league to have like a superpower, that giant like Wake Forest was last year. And maybe Wake will still be that at the end of the year. But right now, I mean, I don't think competition is a bad thing for those top spots. I mean, I think the ACC might actually have multiple teams vying for top 8 seeds as the season goes along, and with Wake and Duke and Clemson, and maybe when that next group of teams jumps up, whether it's NC State or UNC or UVA, we'll see. But I do feel like those top 3 teams all feel pretty legit.
NC State, a sweep of Boston College. North Carolina, a sweep of Pitt. Those are the other 2 of the others that were in ACC play this weekend. Any big takeaways from those 2? I'm leading up to this what I thought was the second most interesting series, which was Miami and Virginia. But we'll get these 2 out of the way first. Yeah.
I mean, I thought nice series wins for both those teams, because Pitt had gotten off to a very good start. Was very good in Vegas last week. I was wondering if they could give North Carolina some trouble. And that first game was 2-1, I think. Really nice, refreshingly well pitched, well played game. There's been a lot of high scoring games in college baseball. And ugly games. And so I love to see a good old fashioned 2-1 ball game. Pitt, we were wondering about their run prevention. They're kind of hanging in there, on that side of it. Carolina's offense, though, very, very good. And I think the next 2 days, they didn't blow them out. I mean, was it 7-4 and 6-5 the next 2 days? Competitive games. I mean, I think Pitt is going to hang around and be a thorn in some people's sides. But UNC, again, love that offense. I mean, Casey Cook has been a big piece for them. We thought he would have a big year. Stick him in the middle there with Parks Harbor and Anthony D'Onofrio, all these three newcomers that just step right into the heart of their order behind Vance Honeycutt, with Madera leading off. I mean, it's amazing the world we live in, how quickly you can reinvent your team. We talked about it with Duke and all the newcomers. North Carolina, kind of the same things with some of those guys. They've got more back, of course, but their young pitching staff seems to be holding it together. I like Shea Sprague in the rotation as a veteran guy that can give you some length. So, for UNC, it was really just about seeing how the pitching would hold up. The young arms, obviously Folger Boaz is a dude. Jason DeCaro, also a dude as a freshman, both very highly ranked. DeCaro was really good this week. I pitched into the 7th inning. So that's encouraging. We know UNC's bullpen is very good. I think if UNC starting pitching, those young guys can hold up. And, that's always a question mark for even the best freshmen. They hit that wall at the end of the year. It's almost inevitable. And so long term, that would give me maybe a little bit of pause for North Carolina. But right now, it looks like the freshmen are ready to head into conference play and keep that team right in the thick of things. I mean, they could wind up having an excellent regular season. And then it's just a matter of, we'll see what they got left in the tank at the end. But and kind of NC State is in a similar boat, right, with their freshmen. I mean, that they're going to be leaning on. They have a little bit more, I think, experience in that rotation now. I think moving Logan Whitaker back into a starting role was the right thing to do with Sam Highfield. So you got two kind of older guys there that can kind of carry you. I mean, once again, the young arms are super exciting. I mean, Jacob Duden, it seems like they really found a guy there at the back. And I think it's easier for a freshman closer to hold up over a full season than it is for a starter. That's, I think in an ideal world, that's kind of how you'd like to develop your arms is kind of ease them in that bullpen role as their first year, and then let them transition to being a weekend horse. And so, Duden, I think, he's also physical too. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised me if that guy is just a really good closer all year long. They need to get Dom Fritton figured out. And that guy, again, preseason All-American, has not gotten off to a very good start. Another kind of mediocre effort here this weekend, 4 1/3, 4 runs. Hasn't been great with the command, it seems like. That was also just an ugly day out there to pitch. Wind howling. It was 18-16 on Sunday against Boston College. And BC's frisky too, Daron. Yeah. I mean, they're again, well-coached team. They got some nice veteran pieces in the lineup. Trying to kind of patch together in the mound. I think they certainly found something with Tyler Mudd, the lefty. He's emerged for them. You can trust John West. So they got a few pieces there in the mound. I still think ultimately they're probably a little short in the pitching department, but they're going to compete. They got some winners in that lineup, got older guys who've been around. Obviously the Vinny Seminis, we love that guy. He's Mr. BC, but Cam Lear, he's played a lot of games for him, and Sam McNulty at shortstop, and Patrick Roche. I mean, they've got some mainstays who've done it, and been in the postseason, and I think we'll keep them competitive all year long.
Yeah. So even though both Pitt and BC got swept, I find myself still kind of up on them, up as we're going to be on them. Right. It's not that, okay, they're top 3 in the conference or whatever.
Right.
But I think they're tough, resilient groups that are going to cause problems in isolated incidences. At the very least, they will do that.
And ultimately, if do I have to, are they going to be regional teams? Yes or no? I'm gonna probably say no, because I just think that the league is too good. There's just too many teams with more on the mound. But will they be competitive? Will they? Could they surprise us? Yeah, absolutely they could. I mean, that Gritzberg thing that Pitt embraces, I love that. I mean, they're and they've been like that since Mike Bell got there. They've never been an easy out, and they've been in the conference tournament, I think, every year that he's been there. And they've knocked on the door for regionals. It's just hard when you don't have the kind of pitching firepower that some of the other teams do.
Yeah. I think that's a good synopsis. All right. For maybe 5 minutes here, Miami getting 2 of 3 on Virginia. Does that mean does that tell you more about Miami or Virginia, or is it maybe a little bit of both?
I don't know. I don't know what to make of that one. It seemed like another one of those just weird weekends where, you had two games, 16-12, 14-11, the last 2 days of the series. Like what's that? I mean, I didn't get to watch those games. Was the wind howling? Like, I don't know if you saw what the heck happened there, but was it just plain implosions? Was it a lot poor strike throwing defense? I mean, it just, it seems like Virginia, that was a little bit of a red flag for me because we had some concerns about their pitching. That's, why they weren't ranked even higher. And their pitching seems like it's still a work in progress. Let's just put it that way. I do think moving Cullen McKay into a starting role was the right thing to do, and he gave him a good start this weekend, but the bullpen couldn't hold that one. It didn't look like they played the cleanest defense this weekend. I mean, Miami, I do think, it seems like their offense is legit. I mean, obviously Daniel Cuvée, the freshman, seems to be pretty special. My goodness.
And Blake Sear, sort of providing what you don't expect, can't reasonably expect out of Cuvée in the big clutch situations. A couple of huge home runs late in games this weekend. So Sear, with the addition of Cuvée and some of the other guys they've got in that lineup, they're plating a lot of runs. So I think that's the piece that's legit. Whether or not we are comfortable with Virginia's pitching at this point in the year or not, I think it can be taken away that Miami can score runs in bunches.
Yep.
It was. I think it's an impressive weekend for them.
They were down 12-3 in the 7th inning on Saturday. And then they just put up 13 runs. They get that go-ahead grand slam from Blake Sear. I mean, it was, that was an impressive display. And again, this is a team where we thought the pitching was going to be the strength, and the offense was a question mark heading into the year. And I still think the pitching should be okay.
And Gage Zeal's not even really on yet. That's the thing too, right? Exactly. The piece that I think we all felt most comfortable about in the pitching staff, that's yet to come into focus or pan out the way that we thought for them. So there's upside even with the great start that they're off to.
I think that's exactly right. Yeah. And we'll see. I would assume that Zeal will probably figure it out, right? I mean, a veteran guy who's got good stuff. He actually wasn't bad this weekend. 5 2/3, 4 runs, 3 earned. I mean, okay. It's not really kind of what they were hoping they would see from him yet, but I think your point is fair. Yeah. I mean, there is still upside there on the mound, but mostly I just think that, with Cuvée being as good as he is, with Jason Torres taking the step forward that he has, and the other pieces kind of supporting those guys really well, I do think this offense just plain looks a lot better than we thought. And so that's encouraging for Miami. It feels like, Miami and Florida State, I mean, you got some teams that are outside our top 25 right now that very easy to envision them getting in before too long.
Yeah. Cam Leiter, speaking of which, another good outing this weekend. I wouldn't say as dynamic as he maybe looked in the first couple of weekends of the season, but still good. Got him, effective enough. I saw earlier this morning he was a pitcher of the week nominee in the league. So, just good stuff out of both of those teams. I like you said, knocking on the door would be pretty cool to see both of them sneak into the top 25 pretty soon.
Yeah, and Florida State's 14-0, and so naturally, we're hearing from people, how can you not have these guys in the top 25? Well, I mean, hashtag play somebody. I mean, it's. Am I more impressed with 14-0 Florida State or 9-5 UC Santa Barbara? Santa Barbara, they went out and played Oregon, and they played, Campbell, went across the country, and they've, Sacramento State's a good program, and UConn, they just swept. Yes, they're 9-5, but they've actually played people. 14-0 against nobodies doesn't tell us anything. And so do I think Florida State is definitely better than last year? Absolutely. We thought that in the preseason too, but you still have to play your way in by actually beating somebody. And they'll get a chance to do that. This week they got Florida midweek and then open ACC play with Notre Dame. So that'll tell us more than sweeping New Orleans.
Yeah. Nice. That's well done. That is a 30 minutes sharp wrap up of the ACC weekend with Aaron Fitt. Fitt, appreciate you always answering the call when I pull the Fitt lever. And or is it a Fitt signal, like a bat signal?
Oh yeah, I like that. Fitt
I like
signal.
that too. The Fitt signal. So Aaron Fitt, as always, answering the call, saving the day. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate it as always. Gravy's back with me for a weekend preview a bit later this week. We may or may not do walk-up music talk with Stephen Schock or ACC all-name team talk with Joe Healy. Both of those things are coming soon. That might be a later in this week sort of venture. It's TBD. We're just kind of rolling with it at this point. But a lot of good baseball in the books for this weekend. A lot still to come for sure, as we are pretty early in the ACC slate. Aaron, my thanks, and we'll talk to everybody again soon.